So Starfield's been out for a little bit now, and I don't know if I've ever seen quite the mixed reception that this game has received. I've only really been seeing two complete ends of the spectrum. You either love this game and it's one of the greatest marvels of game development ever in the history of all video games of all time, forever and always, or you hate this game. It's the worst, most boring piece of crap that you've ever played, and it's not worth your time, and you can't believe you've wasted your life on it. And of course, me being the most average man on YouTube falls somewhere right in the middle. So after playing the game for about a week, I was able to come up with 3 things that I really like about Starfield, but also 3 things that I absolutely hate to the bottom of my core as a gamer. So let's get right into it. The first thing that I really like about Starfield is the character customization. Now, in an RPG of this style, the character customization is absolutely crucial to the success of the game. I feel like in Fallout 4 and Skyrim, the character customization was not at 100% for this style of RPG. Sure, you would be able to pick a class to start with and kind of sync points into that play style, and things would unlock and skill points and perk trees, and that's all great. But one thing that I think was severely missing in those games was traits. You see, traits inherently make an RPG way more fun. These sort of give and take abilities. I really enjoyed them in like Fallout New Vegas, and Wasteland 3 I think also implemented these types of things excellently, and Starfield is absolutely no exception. It deserves to be mentioned along with some of the greats. So right when I was building my character, I started looking at the classes and seeing what I was enjoying, and I started gravitating towards the Space Scoundrel, because immediately I started thinking, yeah, I kind of want to be Han Solo, right? Obviously, super dork here. And I knew that going in, after watching all the promotional material and stuff like that, they got me hyped up, hook, line, and sinker. I wanted to be a pirate, a smuggler. So I went with the Space Scoundrel class, and then once I started looking at the traits, I feel like I was able to perfectly dial in my class. So the traits that I went with was Neon Street Rat, which kind of gives a little bit of a background to my character. Now I have a little bit of a coming of age story growing up in the city streets of Neon, and that really has helped me out with those missions there also. Same thing with the Wanted trait. I took that so I could actually have a little bit more action out in space, and it has worked in that sense, because now bounty hunters come after me, I get more fights, that's all cool and all. Also, when my health is low, I do a little bit more damage, so that's also really cool. However, there are also speech checks that will relate to your traits. So the Neon City Street Rat, Wanted, there's been many times within the short amount of time that I've been playing where I've been able to use unique speak checks to my traits to get out of certain situations. And I just think that's absolutely phenomenal RPG development right there. So character customization, traits, all that stuff, classes, super fun, super awesome. I love playing around with it, and they did a great job in that aspect. And that actually brings me to the second thing that I really like about this game, and that is the revamped Persuasion system and also the lockpicking minigame. So let's take it back a second. One of the biggest issues that I noticed with Fallout 4 was being restricted to only 4 dialogue options. I think that severely hindered the game's dialogue mechanics and the ability to like have fun with speech. I feel like all 4 options really just ended up being the same thing over and over again. And I was really worried going into Starfield before seeing more promotional material that they would maybe neuter the dialogue system more. And I'm happy to report that that's absolutely not the case. The dialogue system in this game is extremely in-depth compared to what I'm used to. Now, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet, so I could completely throw that out the window after I play that. However, like I stated earlier, just having your class and your traits affect the speech checks is already super cool. And then the persuasion system itself is awesome. I absolutely love it. Now, I should say that I've always tried to do a heavily speech-focused character, at least always in my first playthrough with these games. So I knew going into it, I wanted to be a silver-tongued devil. And now, with this new Persuasion minigame, it's turned into a completely new and engaging experience for me. It definitely feels like, in good old Bethesda fashion, there's a little bit of skill involved. It's not quite Fallout New Vegas. If you have enough points, you automatically get it. However, the minigame is super engaging. So now, when you're trying to persuade somebody, you kind of have to break them down a little bit. There's some nodes at the bottom of the speech checks that will fill up slowly but surely, with the easier speech options getting you just 1 or 2 nodes, while the more difficult and hardcore and maybe abrasive ones will get you upwards of 4 or 5. So it becomes this kind of ebb and flow of massaging your words or greasing up your person that you're negotiating or whatever, and then maybe laying a big one down and trying to get it right. Obviously, I'm still save scumming to get through it, but man, I've just been having a ton of fun with this Persuasion minigame. I think they really nailed it with this one. Also, like I had said, the lockpicking minigame is fantastic. I never really had too many complaints with the Fallout lockpicking minigame, and I thought it was just fine. It was definitely getting a little played out, but this new digi lockpick thing, it kind of reminds me of almost like a Ratchet and Clank kind of puzzle game thing going on with the multiple nodes that you have to hit, and I like how you can't really scum out of it like you could with the Fallout terminals. If you back out, you lose the lockpick. So it feels really engaging. I feel like I have to think a little bit while I'm lockpicking, and I just really enjoy it a lot. So both the mini games for the Persuasion system and the lockpicking is actually super engaging, and I've been loving it a ton. And speaking of super engaging, that actually brings me to my third and final thing that I really like about this game. And that is that the galaxy has specific higher level areas that you can go to early in the game. Now, one of my biggest issues with some of Bethesda's other games is the scaling difficulty that goes throughout it. It always made the experience kind of feel cheap to me. And if you don't know what I mean, what I'm saying by scaling is the game and the enemies in like Skyrim or Fallout 3 will progressively get more tough as you get more tough. So level 1, you're fighting more low level enemies. And then by like level 30, you're fighting like hardcore level 30 type enemies. And the game will kind of scale with that the entire time. Whereas on the flip side, with Fallout New Vegas, and you know what? I'm going to just stop right now and mention that I do know that that game was not developed by Bethesda, and it was developed by Obsidian. So I'm just going to get ahead of the comments right now. Yes, I know Bethesda didn't develop Fallout New Vegas, but maybe they should take some notes because it's pretty amazing. So with Fallout New Vegas, the world map has areas where enemies are more difficult and less difficult inherently right from the start. For example, in the beginning of the game at Good Springs, there's a route that takes you straight to New Vegas, but it is very treacherous and filled with Deathclaws and Cazadors that'll just wreck you. And then there's another route that's a little bit longer and goes around and kind of takes you through the tutorial. Now, on my first ever playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, I immediately went straight to the strip because it was so tantalizing to me. I needed to do it. So yeah, I did a little bit of save scumming, and I think I may have had a stealth boy by the grace of God. And I slowly but surely inched my way through the area and to the strip, and immediately started the meat of the game right there within like the first hour of playing it. And that was all by my choice, and that was immensely satisfying, and I've always kind of been chasing that dragon ever since, honestly. So with Starfield, I was a little bit concerned that, especially with the procedural generation, that there might be a little bit of scaling and that it wouldn't really show me any difficulty, especially early on in the game. However, I can gladfully report back that no, there are high-level areas that you can choose to go to early. For example, one of the earlier side quests that you'll get in the game is called Mantis. Now, there's some super good gear at the end of that quest. I highly recommend doing it. I won't spoil anything. However, I didn't end up going to it for a little bit. It was kind of in my quest log. I was trying to get through the main story to, experience certain things, and I ended up going back to it. And when I checked where the location was at, it was actually in a level 30 area. So if I would have went to it even earlier when I first got the quest, whoa daddy. But yeah, I went to the quest at about level 16, and man, it was super difficult. It was testing me on so many different levels. And right when I thought I had got to the end, I was only at about halfway. I had to get through this super brutal security system that kept killing me, and I had to rest to get more health, and I had to fight all these robots that were super high level, and my weapons weren't doing a lot of damage. And guess what? I was absolutely loving it. That was like one of the most fun experiences that I've had in a Bethesda game, and like ever, honestly. So much fun. The difficulty, the challenge. Yeah, maybe I'm just some From Software stan that needs to be abused and beaten by any video game to even feel anything. But yeah, I was really loving the difficulty that this game can bring that you can choose to put upon yourself with these high level areas. So yeah, having these kind of high level spots to test yourself is just like so awesome. And I think that Bethesda is really kind of breaking out of their shell with that. However, it's not all sunshine and roses. And in fact, I think the negative can kind of outweigh the positive in certain ways. So, though I did say they're breaking out of their shell in some ways, in other ways, it is completely the opposite. They have doubled down on some of their worst habits. So let's just get right into it. The first thing that I absolutely cannot stand about Starfield is the slow intro. And I can't even begin to believe how many people are defending how long it takes to get into this game. Bethesda has always had notoriously long intros, man. Fallout 3, I mean, alright, cool. It's a gimmick. You start as a kid, you like grow up, you're a baby and stuff, sure. Fallout 4, oh my god, snooze fest, right? Takes forever to get into that game. There was mods that came out like the next week so you could just skip that beginning part of the game and just get straight into the meat of it. And I just don't get how they didn't get the message. These long intros are possibly the greatest sin to ever grace any of these styles of RPGs. And yes, I'm gonna do it. I'm going back to New Vegas. Like I said, oh, duh, I know it wasn't made by Bethesda, but it doesn't matter. We're talking New Vegas. I, in this year alone, have done two new runs of Fallout New Vegas. You know why? Because New Vegas takes about 30 minutes for you to get into it. From the point where Benny says,
"The game was rigged from the start,"
to waking up with Doc Mitchell, setting up your character and getting out, that takes about 30 minutes. And from there, if you know what you're doing, the game is wide open to you. You can do whatever you want. Starfield, on the other hand, takes at least 10 hours to get into. 10 hours. If that is not the most blatant disrespect of somebody's time that a game developer could ever show, I don't know what is. Maybe people just need games to be hundreds and hundreds of hours for them to feel like they've gotten their money's worth. But I don't know, man. Maybe I just come from an era where I'm used to a game giving me about 20 to 30 quality hours, and that was worth my money. Because look, man, as time goes on, I got a job. I got a kid. Family, all this stuff I do outside of just gaming and stuff, man. 10 hours of not enjoying my time fully is just egregious, and I cannot stand for it. And that brings me to the second thing that I absolutely cannot stand about Starfield, and that is that space is just a gimmick, man. Now, I knew it once people pried in and they figured out that you couldn't be taking off and landing from planets. I had a fishy feeling from that moment, and boy was that feeling validated. This game could have been set in any other setting where you just go to different biomes. Space inherently doesn't do anything. It's just a little mini game in between certain loading screens when you go to like star systems that are a little bit too far off. Now, I'm sure as time goes on, I'll be doing a little bit more poking and exploring in space and pirate stuff and smuggling. Sure, that's all fine and dandy. But truly, when it boils down to it, space is a gimmick in this game. It's like just a backdrop, you know? There's nothing really fun to do out in space, at least so far where I'm at. And then also the planets, besides having these like small, selected, hand-designed areas, everything else is procedurally generated. That could be all fine and dandy and stuff, but man, these planets are like desolate wastelands. And I can already hear the comments right now. Oh wait, I thought you said you like Fallout New Vegas. Isn't that just a desolate landscape? Look, yeah, I'm a fan of desolate landscapes in that sense, right? But with Fallout New Vegas, because it's a handcrafted world, every time you step out of an area, when you look up into the skyline, you can see areas of interest. There's always something poking out of the horizon that kind of calls to you, even if it's just the lights of the strip itself. There's something that shouts, come over here, I need to be explored. This game has none of that whatsoever. These landscapes are so boringly empty, and the creatures in them are just like a kind of a shuffle of the same different types of creatures over and over that I've kind of noticed. Maybe that expands, but so far the wildlife is super boring, and the things that I have discovered, like the kind of weird procedurally generated things in the wild, They've just been like kind of cool looking, I guess. There's been nothing to it. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but I knew it. I knew with these procedurally generated planets, there was going to be this lack of this handcrafted feeling, and that's exactly what I'm getting. It's making space and the exploration feel just like so needless and gimmicky and just honestly boring. And that really just brings me to my third and final point on the thing that I dislike with this game, and that is just the minute-to-minute gameplay. I don't know any other way that I could say this, but this game is just really boring to play. And I'm just gonna have to say this right now. Shame on anybody that was looking at this gameplay before and saying, oh man, I think they got id Tech to help them with their first-person shooting. This is looking really clean. How dare you compare this game to the absolute masterclass in first-person shooting that is Doom Eternal? Shame on you. This game is not even close to being 1/10 as fun as a game like Doom Eternal. And I remember when Todd was asked those questions, he definitely backed away from it and was saying, no, we designed this gameplay. And yeah, it feels like it, dude. It's just a Bethesda shooting experience so far. And yeah, I'm sure I will unlock like targeting. I saw that was a perk, and I'm sure the shooting will get a little bit better as the game goes on, but that's just it. It'll only get like marginally better than what it is. And what it is pretty boring. It's kind of just click on something or press the trigger until they die. That's it. The weapon variety isn't really there. And oh yeah, back to the whole Fallout thing. I'm just gonna say it, man. You can call me an edgelord, you can call me whatever you want, but the gore does something. When you shoot a ghoul and it just kind of explodes into a gazillion pieces, that's like a really visceral and satisfying response. It's awesome. But with this game, everything just kind of just flops on the ground, flops over, even like the wildlife and stuff. And it just makes it feel like, I don't know, you're just shooting a bunch of mannequins and figurines, and it's just boring. The shooting is boring. The exploring is boring. Everything about the minute-to-minute gameplay is super boring. And that's kind of like a major issue, because you're going to be spending a lot of time in this game in combat. And I don't know, maybe I just came from Armored Core 6 and I'm like used to these really fast and engaging combat sequences, but this is so on the other end of the spectrum. It's just, I don't know, man. Really boring. If I had to describe this game, I would say that the horizon is just right in the middle. Now, what does that mean? Well, I'll let my favorite director of all time, David Lynch, explain exactly what that means to you.
Now remember this. When the horizon's at the bottom, it's interesting. When the horizon's at the top, it's interesting. When the horizon's in the middle, it's boring as shit.